Hey yo, what's up everybody? So today we're talking about Wuthering Waves Chapter 4 Act 1, Act 2, and the segue after it. Hey man, the story this patch was quite interesting. We got a lot of stuff that came out of it. Also, before we get too deep into it, gotta say it, spoilers, duh, you know what it is. We're gonna go ahead and get right into what I found most interesting and what stood out to me. The first thing is, yo, who the f is Yangyang? No, really, who is Yangyang? Like, man, Yangyang isn't even Yangyang anymore. She had an evolution, a second awakening. And the thing about this that is so interesting, that makes me question who she is because up until this point, we've only ever seen second awakenings with Sentinel Resonators, people of exceptional status or power. Second awakenings aren't typically things that we see that happen with regular people. And when it came down to the characters, Yangyang is a 4-star character, at least originally. So she was quite the normal character, at least from the get-go. But beyond that, that also opens up another question, because I had this question earlier, way back in Chapter 1, Act 7. When we first saw Jinshi get her second awakening, I had the question then, can anyone have a second awakening? Or is this just only for Sentinel Resonators, only when they resonate with the Sentinel? And now we have an answer, at least somewhat. We don't know the depths of Yangyang's being, why she is the way she is. Can anyone do this? Or is it just because she is special in some way? And when I say special in some way, this is the other aspect of Yangyang that seems quite mysterious. In the quest, we see someone titled The Echo of a Passing Breeze. Now, we don't know who they actually are, but that's how they refer to themselves rather than giving us an actual name or some type of affiliation to go by. The Echo of a Passing Breeze takes the form of Yangyang. However, this being is quite interesting because it's not even one person. At different points in the quest, it kind of gives us the impression that it's more than one being, or either it's affiliated or connected to more than one being. It's a representative of more than one being. Either way, one line of dialogue says, "Forgive us. We never intended for you or a living soul to hear this voice." And this voice, again, it takes the image of Yangyang and it goes back into Yangyang's past, and it kind of implies that Yangyang is of some significance that we don't know the depth of. We don't know if Yangyang is actually from Solaris 3 like we thought. Could Yangyang actually be from wherever Rover is from? Or is Yangyang from Solaris but somehow connected to some unknown entity? I don't know, but it's fascinating and I can't wait to learn more about it. Another thing that stood out to me in this quest is the new villain. That's right, we got a new villain, which is super exciting because we really haven't had any villains that we can defeat. I mean, technically, we don't actually defeat him, but it's super rare for us to face off against villains directly. Mainly, we've been just facing off against Trinodians. The only two villains that we faced off against head to head were Frolova and Scar. The rest were just proxy fighting through other means. But yeah, he's super interesting. One interesting thing about him is that he isn't a part of the Fraxidus. And the Fraxidus actually has been reaching out to him because of what he's trying to do and because of all the research he's done. And pretty much it would help them a great deal, all the knowledge he's basically acquired up until this point. And so even though he did not join the Fraxidus, there was a Fraxidus woman who approached him dressed in red. However, they made it clear during the quest that this woman dressed in red is not Frolova, but they didn't drop the name. So we don't know who it is, but that does give us the impression that we're going to see a new Fraxidus member in the near future. Now, I don't know who this is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be Eris. I don't know if it's going to be Zashiki Warashi. I don't know if it's going to be any of the other named Fraxidus members from Luke's Segue quest, but it's still very exciting. And the other thing excited about Muyu is the fact that he's lived for over 200 years. Which is insane. And the reason that's insane is, well, I think I have to explain why that's insane. It's mentioned kind of like in the quest, but I know some people might have different impressions and ideas about, you know, the fact that he's 200 years old and some people might not feel like it's a big deal. Well, the reason I say some people might not feel that way is just based off of one of my previous videos. I did a video talking about the real ages of Wuthering Waves characters. Now, in this video, it's kind of done in fun, but it's also based in the lore of the game. But it's done in fun because, we don't really know certain details and we kind of have to estimate certain things, but it is within reason, right? But what I saw in the comments was a lot of people talking about how resonators and their ages, well, they don't really age, or they age extraordinarily slowly. And that might be true for certain resonators. Certain resonators have certain attributes tied to their forte that slows down their aging or makes it where they don't age. But that isn't everyone, because if that were the case, then everybody in Jinzhou would already have known Rover when he first appeared there at the start of the game. And some people kind of heard of him, but nobody knew him firsthand. And the last time, you got to understand that Rover's history in Jinzhou dates way back. So they would have already had some perception of who he was, like from an actual firsthand experience and firsthand memory. At the start of the game, we get the impression that there aren't really that many resonators, but in actuality, there are resonators everywhere. Like every third person is a resonator. I don't even want to say third person, like a lot of people, but we still see people get older. And that was demonstrated in a number of different quests here and there. I'm not going to go too off of the rails into that, but the point is, it's mentioned in this quest how much of an anomaly that is by Rover. And so I feel vindicated in that. I usually participate in the comments, but I didn't dig too deep in the comments into that particular video, mainly because I just didn't really want to go back and forth with so many people. But yes, it is anomalous that this character is over 200 years in age, which is insane. So it begs the question, like, who is he? What is he? And there's not many characters like that. However, when it comes to the Elk of the Fraxidus, well, there's a number of members who have very old ages. We know Frolova, her forte allows her to live for a very long time. The Grand Architect has lived before the etheric sea enveloped the planet. And I want to do a video on the Grand Architect. If you guys want to see it, hey man, be sure to like this video. But yeah, man, that was really interesting. He seems like a really interesting character. I can't wait to see more from him. Also, we get yet even more questions about Rover. And these questions kind of come from that mysterious voice that was talking to Yangyang, the echo of a passing breeze. And those questions, one of the things that they say is, you can say your encounter with Rover was inevitable, or you can say it was a miracle unlikely to repeat in a billion iterations. The interesting part is not only that line, but the line before where they mentioned the first variable and a chaos system. And going back to the line I just mentioned when I said iterations, all of this is like computer speak, which kind of goes back into one of the theories that I had about my theory of everything. Now, I don't know if my theory of everything will still stand as time goes forward. I don't know how the story is going to evolve, but this terminology of a kind of simulation theory is kind of leaning towards what I originally said, but I mean, I don't know. Another thing that's interesting too is Muyu. When Muyu says, I wonder where you've picked up this sickening habit of playing human. Now, of course, we know Rover isn't from Solaris 3, but on some level, they appear to be human, at least in their physical appearance. So it kind of begs the question, like, does Rover have another form? What is the true form of Rover? Or did he say that just because Rover is kind of just mingling among mortals? Like, what does he mean and what does he know about Rover that us, the player, we do not know, as well as Rover himself doesn't know? But all of that is really interesting as well, man. We got so many different little nuggets of interesting points throughout this entire quest, or rather these entire quests, because there were a series of quests. And that brings me to a few other things. Man, the music also was really dope, but I also got to talk about the uniqueness of this patch. It was unique due to the amount of story content we got in one half of a patch. You got to remember, this is just the first half of a patch. The fact of the matter is, we haven't been given this much story in one half of a patch since 2.0, where we got 3 acts of a story. Here, we got 3 main quests. We have Chapter 4, Act 1, Act 2, and a Segue. With so much story released at once, it begs the question, just what is Kuro planning? But another thing that's interesting and unique about this particular patch, and when it comes to the story, is that this is the beginning of the 4.x cycle of stories, while we're still in the 3.x series of patches. Now, typically, up until this point, the 1.x story in Chapter 1 lined up with us being in 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. The same thing with 2.0. The 2.0 storyline, or rather 2.x in terms of Chapter 2, takes place in all of the 2.x patches, 2.0, 2.1, 2.2, etc. Well, we're still in 3.x. This is 3.5, but we're now in Chapter 4 of the story, which Core Games just said, F your titling scheme, Extra Wavy. However you were planning to title this, you're going to have to title it differently because we're now moving into Chapter 4, whether you like it or not. So that's something we got to deal with. But yeah, man, the story was dope. I do have a few gripes with the story, but overall, it was dope, man. Some of my gripes involve the story being incredibly slow at certain points. Certain points just had me thinking like, man, get to the good part. Get to the good part. All right, this is cool, but get to the good part. Like, there were just weird focal points where we had to like knock on doors, or we had to find a kid hidden behind a box. You know, it was like, why are we finding a kid hidden behind a box? What's going on? Like, there are robots attacking everybody, you know, or with Suisui, Jingran appears and they disappear. But like the thing with the kid, or the thing with knocking on doors, or the thing with Jingran, those are all great. If they could have somehow tied that in to what was going on in the story in some kind of meaningful way, maybe it would have been cool. Or if you're going to focus on like side characters like that, maybe make it a side quest or part of the main quest, but you'll have to make the main quest take more time so you can make these moments more relevant. Otherwise, it's just kind of filling up space and it doesn't feel good. It slows down the action. It makes me feel like I wish I wasn't doing this part of the quest right now. You know what I mean? But overall, it was cool, man. Another thing was the story kind of had way too many proper nouns. It got to the point where I started making a list of all the proper nouns. There is a ton of them. And it kind of makes it a little bit challenging to follow at first. Just because it's like, yo, why do we have so many different things? Like, it's too much. It's way too much. Here are some of the proper nouns. Now, granted, some of these proper nouns are used multiple times during the quest because they're the name of certain people. And some of these you only hear once, which actually begs the question, why couldn't you just give us what it was on a base level, like a key or a building or a person, and make the extra detail portion be revealed in side quests or something like that? Because like, I mean, here's the list. We had Yan, Qingji, Changkun, Wardens, Seizure Courts, Fortress and Gorgeous War, Wanling Bird, Rafter Kite, Mingzhou, Uncle Dong, Lengyu, Xuanfang, Wan Triad, Zhoujun Atelier, Wan Paragon, Skywatch Ring, Wan Watcher, Yanling, Mingyu, Yan Fortress, Ministry of Development, Muyu, Western Fang Peaks, Skyworks, Mingxin, Fog Veil Pagoda, Sunken Warren, Prism of Fate, Chohang, Xinyuan, Wan Fortress, Lifang, Qingzhou, Votary of the Voice, The Echo of a Passing Breeze. And yeah, man, like, it's way, way too much. I don't know, man. If you could imagine watching, I don't know, any of your favorite action movies or shows, and them just giving you a bunch of different vocabulary that it's not regular vocabulary, and some of which isn't really explained or expounded upon in the story. And when you get to the next story, which in this case it will be Chapter 4, Act 2, some of it isn't really expounded upon or used in any meaningful way in that subsequent quest. So it's like, why are you dropping so much of this on us when you can just take your time and introduce some of these words properly as you progress the story? You're giving us way too much at one time, and it's a little bit overwhelming because it's like, what are you even talking about? I have to slow it down and reread sections to figure out, what do you mean by that? I don't know what Skywatch is. I'm sitting here like, Ming Shin, we talked about Ming Zhou, but what's Ming Shen? Now I have to go and figure out what Ming Shen is. And I'm like, wait a minute, did they mention that before? Am I missing out on something? And then only to find out like, oh, they didn't say that before. I'm tripping. That's spelled differently from Ming Zhou. You know what I mean? Like, just take your time. Take your time. We can always put that in an exploration quest or put that in some type of side quest or whatever, man. But like, you're doing way too much with the vocab. But other than that, it was dope, man. It was really cool. And it was especially a huge payoff when we saw, oh, I almost forgot. This is also an important part that I thought was super cool. I felt like there was like a merging of worlds connecting the Illusive realm to the real world. Granted, the Illusive realm didn't really play a role in this, but I think the first time we saw Yangyang's skill transform into an ultimate was in the Illusive realm. And I thought it was really interesting to see the evolution of a character. Like, we saw her evolving as the story continued. As a matter of fact, not only did we see her skills evolving, which I thought was really cool and a really nice touch, we also heard her voice evolve. Yangyang's voice dropped from being that very high pitch, head voice to more of a chest voice. And I mean, obviously her voice isn't like as deep as mine, but you can tell like the voice actor for Yangyang naturally has a lower pitched voice. And so it allows her to be more expressive. And we felt the expression of Yangyang and just the voice acting overall. And it got better and better as the quest moved forward, as she moved from head voice to chest voice. I know that's a small detail. Maybe not everybody else noticed that, but I noticed it and I really appreciated it. But anyways, folks, those are my thoughts about this quest. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys got to say in the comments down below. That's all I got for you guys today. And until next time, Waves.